You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk, each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast. Also available on iTunes.
Good morning, it's the Workers' Beat. I'm Gene Lantz. The number here is 972-647-1893. What does it sound like on a picket line?
What kind of power? We got the power. Who got the power? We got the power. We got power. Who got the power? We got the power.
We're standing we're picketing in front of a Walmart store in southern Dallas. I'm walking behind Bruce, a long-time Walmart employee. A bunch of us are people who walked out this morning, and a bunch of us are supporters. Looks like we've got about 75 people. This is the second picket line this morning. There will be others as Walmart workers are walking out across the nation. Californians walked out several days ago, and 2 weeks before that, we had some warehouse workers go out on strike. This is a historic moment in American history. Well, the signs are interesting. My own sign says, "Stop retaliations against workers." And it says ULP strike. ULP means unfair labor practices. A lot of the signs say, "Stop retaliation." Some say freedom of speech. Some say respect us as associates. One says, "I spoke out at Walmart, and Walmart tried to suppress me." There goes, we are the 99%. One of my favorites from the chants this morning is "Stand up, live better," because that's kind of a takeoff on a Walmart slogan. Stand up, live better. I've never seen so many cameras at an action. There are a lot of people taking pictures. They're already on Facebook. I know mine are. And people are very, very enthusiastic. There's one lady in a wheelchair with a sign that says, "Respect us as associates." I see Bonnie Mathias from the communication workers. Nancy Hall from communication workers is also here. A lot of people are from the United Food and Commercial Workers. This is just a customer going by, blowing her horn like crazy, and everybody's excited about that. The people passing by seem to be on our side. Even though they're Walmart shoppers, they seem to be very glad to see us out here. We're now chanting, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, Walmart's greed has got to go." And the picket line just picked up and started back toward the bus. We're walking single file, still picketing, walking toward the bus. They don't know where we're going to go next. And most of us don't know where we're going to go next. In fact, this morning when we gathered, most of us didn't even know what we were going to do, because that's the way war is planned. This is part of a war of working people to defend themselves against the war that was started by the corporations against us. So, under wartime rules, we have to keep our plans secret. And so pretty much none of us knows exactly what's going to happen the rest of the day. We may be driving around all day, going from store to store, or this may have been the end of it. We don't know. We'll find out. We're just sticking with it. The only thing we know, and we know this for sure, we know which side we're on. So, Billy, this is your first picket of all time. What'd you think?
I thought it was awesome. I couldn't believe that our movement caused the managers to come outside and kind of watch over us. I mean, it's not like we were doing anything illegal, and Walmart's policy is respect for the individual, and that's what we're fighting for. So why aren't they supporting us?
Yeah, it does seem strange, doesn't it? But and yet, did you think they were? Did you think they were a little scared of us?
I think they were. I think we knocked the boots a little bit, and I liked it. I mean, it's good to always see that we're making a difference, and they're seeing us, because us as individuals, we want our respect, and it's good that they're paying attention, because it takes so much, you know, and I'm glad that we're able to do something in order to get some type of attention.
Right on, Billy. Thank you so much.
You've heard about the line all your life. You've heard which side are you on. You hear it on this program all the time. Which side are you on? You hear the line in the sand. You hear about crossing the line. Did you ever wonder where the line is? The line, brothers and sisters, is the picket line. Get on the right side of the picket line. The picket lines are up for Walmart stores around the country. I don't think they're actually on strike today. I think this was just a mini strike last week, but get ready for more. Get ready for more action before this month is over, because Walmart workers still don't have respect. Walmart workers still don't have what they need and what they deserve, and so the fight is on. Please join and get with it. Come to it and do it with us. 972-647-1893 is the number here. We are pleased, very pleased to have two very important guests today who are very active on the correct side of the picket line. We have Elizabeth Wally. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
And Kelly Obaze. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Gene. So glad to be back at KNON.
What message did you bring us?
You know, today we are going to be talking about voting rights, some of the ploys that are out there to make it difficult for folks to vote, as well as just encouraging people to get more education regarding the issues that are the critical deciding factors of our day. So there we go.
Elizabeth, what do you think about it?
I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, that's one of the things that we find when we're out there. I do a lot of volunteer work with people who are planning to vote, and it's hard for people out there. There are a lot of candidates, there are a lot of issues, and there's a lot of conflicting information out there. And we need to make sure that people are educated and know how to do their research, and so they'll be well prepared when they go to the polls.
Do you know I already voted? In fact, I voted 2 weeks ago. If you are over 65, or if you're disabled, or if you're not going to be in town during the election period, you can vote by mail in Texas. And you can make an application to vote by mail right up to October 29th. So if you're in one of those categories, you can vote by mail. So make your application and do it. That way you make sure you're going to vote. You don't care if it rains or not. You don't care if your car breaks down or not. You get your vote in. I voted 2 weeks ago, and so did a lot of seniors. Now, the early voting actually begins on October 22nd. And that's what Bonnie Mathias has been working on with CWA 6215. I've been working on it with Alliance for Retired Americans. And we're going to have a downtown rally in downtown Dallas for early voting on October 22nd at 11 o'clock down by the Old Red Courthouse. Will you be there?
I'll be there, Gene, certainly. And, you know, I encourage all your listeners to come out and join us. You know, this is a great opportunity for us to show our politicians that we are informed and we are ready to vote and hold them accountable to meeting the needs of our community. So this is our great opportunity. Again, that date was on the 22nd. We're going to meet where? The Old Records Building at 11 a.m. Is that correct?
Well, the Records Building is where people vote, but it's right next door to the Old Red Courthouse, and everybody knows where the Old Red Courthouse is.
Fantastic. How about you, Liz? Will you be with us?
Sure will.
That'll be great. Now tell us about the Dallas Peace Center and how you got into all this and what kind of things you're doing at the Dallas Peace Center.
Well, you know, this is really critically important, and I was very elated when our board decided that we were going to work on this coalition to lift every voice and vote. And this coalition is comprised of the Dallas Peace Center, NAACP, Dallas, and City Square, along with what we have identified as communities of influence, faith-based organizations, community colleges, and we have partnered to increase the voter share in 2012. In addition to that, our overall objective is to get people more engaged in these in the upcoming legislative session, in this 83rd legislative session. We've got some critical issues. We have budget cuts that will disproportionately affect minority communities, and we have all got to be on point. You know, I love the fact that you and the workers were out on the picket line holding out for workers' rights and civil rights and protecting our civil liberties. You know, it's us that makes America great, us together, and voting is the way we do it.
What's voting got to do with the peace issue, though? How does voting and peace go together?
How does justice and peace go together, brother?
Right on.
All right.
So,
I love you.
No justice and no peace. You got summer stirred up now. Well, this is terrific. The voting period will start October 22nd for most people, and for older people and disabled people, and those that are not going to be in town during election period. It's already started. You can you can vote by mail. So, if the election goes your way, there should be a better chance at peace and domestic tranquility and justice.
So, you know, that's not necessarily my view. My view is not whether or not it goes my way. My view actually is, regardless of how this general election plays out, who our next president of the United States is, we have to be prepared. Communities, citizens, ordinary folks have to be prepared to advocate on behalf of their issues. And so the way that we really support national issues is through getting engaged locally. So we're organizing, partnering with NAACP TOP on some very critical issues to bring education to our community, and most importantly, doing some advocacy training right after the election on how to launch campaigns, how to do legislative visits, and things of that nature. So regardless whether we have a Mitt Romney or a President Obama, it really is contingent on us as American and engaged citizens to be involved in our process on a local, state, and national level, putting forth our own issues.
So you're not just advocating for one side or the other. You're just advocating for people to get off their butts.
You know, that's the democracy that we love.
And Jean, I'll just reiterate that. That's exactly what our organization does. My organization is called GOTV, and that's Get Out the Vote. And we're an educational organization to teach people about voting and why it's important. And we don't take any partisan position. We don't advocate for any candidates. We don't talk about politics in our classes. Our objective is just to increase voter participation. I mean, it's no secret that there's certain segments of the population that participate in the election process on a very irregular basis, and their voices are heard. And then there are other segments of the population that do not. And it's our opinion that politicians listen to the people who vote. So if we want to have a healthy community with all people's voices being heard and all people's positions being respected and their needs being considered, then that means that the voter share needs to be leveled across the board, which it is not today. So that's what our objective is to increase voter share among those populations that are not currently turning out to vote.
I see, but then there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Now, one excuse that is given all the time is that people tell me that they're too radical for the elections. I had a guy the other day said I can't vote for Obama because I'm way to the left of Obama, and I said, well, so what are you going to do about it then? Are you going to do anything? Because people argue for abstention when they say that I am too radical to vote. And that seems like so much nonsense to me, because I do all this other stuff. I do all this picketing and everything. By the way, our hearts go out to the Winsboro, Texas, where the environmentalists are fighting the LX pipeline. And you've been involved in that too, haven't you, Kelly?
Yeah, just a tad bit. But, you know, I want to go back to your comment where the young man said I'm too radical to vote. You know, vote and then get more radical.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of things that we need to create dynamic change on, and so we need that radical energy. No question about it. And I have to say, Gene, you know, I've been on plenty of picket lines with you and others, and I haven't seen that radical energy. So, brother, come on out and join us.
So if you're willing to go out and picket, then surely to goodness you would be willing to go vote, because it just don't take any time at all.
No.
It's
voting
it's
is
a
easy.
snap.
Voting is easy.
From October 22nd, we'll be able to vote in any of the county offices that are open, right? And that's not just Dallas County, it's all the counties that we're talking to, all the surrounding counties. You can vote at your courthouse and almost everywhere else.
You know, I was on the line with Reverend Christian, Jerry Christian, who heads the African American Pastors Coalition the other day. And he was letting me know that on Super Sunday, October 28th, take your souls to the polls. And so this effort is being supported by the African American Pastors Coalition, Oak Cliff Bible Union, Baptist Ministries Union, the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, Church of the Living God, Pentecostal Church, and African Baptists. So if you are part of a faith-based ministry, challenge your leadership. For October 28th, let's take our souls to the polls and make it a community initiative to early vote.
They go after church? Is that the way
they go after church?
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Elizabeth?
I think that's great. I think some of the churches are organizing caravans where their congregation will all go together, and it's a community activity, and I think it's just the right spirit.
It must be a very, very good thing, and I'll tell you why I know. Because in the last legislative session, certain state legislators, whose party will not be named, but it begins with an R, tried to stop Super Sunday. They tried to stop voting on Sunday because of that very thing. They wanted to stop African American churches from going to vote on Sunday. And so that was one of the voter suppression bills that was entertained in the last legislature, and it did not get that far. Thank goodness that one didn't pass. They did pass a bunch of others and had to be stopped by the federal government because they were trying to suppress the vote, especially the vote of poor people, minorities, and in my own constituency, which is older people. They're literally trying to suppress our vote and stop us. So if voting's not important, brothers and sisters, why are so many people trying to stop you from doing it? Why are so many people trying to prohibit your doing it? So that's my message. What do you think?
Well, I think that is absolutely correct. And think about this also. Do you know how much money is spent on elections? I read just the other day that so far on the presidential and congressional elections in this country this year, over $4 billion has been spent.
Already.
That is politicians, candidates trying to influence voters. Now, if it weren't important how people were voting, I mean, would they be spending that kind of money? It's more than General Motors spends on advertising. It's more than Ford. I mean, it's the biggest advertising campaign in the world.
We'll have to get back to that money issue right after this break.
I got to work this morning. Something seemed kind of strange.
If it's time to get rid of your old gas guzzler, the KNON Vehicle Donation Program can help. There's still a market for those old vehicles, and if you donate it, you're helping to support quality programming here on KNON. Just call 877-KNON-AUTO or go online to KNON.org. We'll take care of everything from pickup to tax paperwork. That's 877-KNON-AUTO or online at KNON.org.
Want to hear some great Texas blues? KNON has the CD for you. KNON's Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, our latest blues compilation CD to benefit community radio, sponsored by Forever Young Records. This CD features 15 tracks and 60 minutes of great original Dallas-Fort Worth blues from Tutu Jones, Blues Boy Bo, Buddy Whittington, Andrea Dawson, Kirkland James, Sonny Colley, Johnny Red and the Roosters, the Chris Watson Band, the Two-Tones, the Rough Cut Blues Band, Jeff Stone and Charlie Love, Dave Millsap, Sirloin and the Ash-Kicking Machine, Michael J. and the Paul Bird Band, and JJ and the Detonators. We're only selling 1,000 copies, and it will never be reissued. Get your copy now at Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie, Record Town in Fort Worth, and in Dallas at Bill's Records and Rewind Music. The CD is available as an MP3 download at KNON.org. All proceeds benefit community radio, KNON. For more info on Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, visit us at KNON.org. Get your copy now and hear some real Texas blues. Your ears will thank you for it.
The
second annual KNON Zydeco Halloween Fey Voodoo Party is coming to Poor David's Pub on Saturday, October 27th, starring the fabulous Rosie Ledette for one night only. That's right, Rosie Ledette returns to entertain all you crazy Cajun and Zydeco music lovers on Saturday, October 27th. Opening the show will be JB and the Zydeco Posse. Doors will be at 7. This is Jim Bro of Monday's Cajun Zydeco Music Party, and I will be your host. The Alligator Cafe will be serving up a delicious dinner, including Cajun pasta Orleans, shrimp etouffee, red beans and rice, and bread pudding for dessert. Yum. And of course, there will be a costume contest for the scariest, funniest, and most Mardi Gras costumes. Tickets are available now at knon.org, Forever Young Records, and Bill's Records in Dallas. That's the second annual Zydeco Halloween Fey Voodoo starring Rosie Ledette and JB and the Zydeco Posse on Saturday, October 27th at Poor David's Pub, located at 1313 South Lamar in Dallas, for a night of scary good fun.
Medicare and Medicaid recipients may qualify for additional services including dental, vision, and transportation through DFW Medicare Health Benefits. These plans also cover dentures and partials. For more information, 214-501-7330. That's 214-501-7330. Agents are available from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Vision, dentures, partials, and transportation may be available to recipients of Medicare and Medicaid through DFW Medicare Health Benefits at 214-501-7330.
Blue Monday. How I hate Blue Monday. 972-647-1893 is the number here. I've got to read this important announcement. The Red Elvises and the Belly Dancers are on tonight. Free dinner from La Victoria, serving the biggest tamales in Texas this Saturday night. That's tonight. All ages. Doors at 7 p.m. Sons of Herman Hall, 3414 Elm Street in Dallas. Get your advance tickets now at knon.org. Bill's Records or Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie. Save money, get your tickets now. It's been 2 years since they last played for KNON. This one's going to be extra special. Get there early for the free tamale dinner from La Victoria with Texas-sized tamales. I don't know if you've ever seen the Red Elvis, but they are really a hoot. This is not just a band, and this is an experience.
You know, I was really thinking about the big tamales, the free large tamales. That was kind of what was on my mind, but I'm sure that Red Elvis is awesome as well.
They are. I'm with Kelly Obaze and Elizabeth Wally this morning talking about voting, and we have a couple of callers. You want to put Randy on first? Good morning, Randy. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, you guys.
Glad to hear from you.
Kelly, tell your husband I said hello.
Hey, brother from the other mother. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank
oh,
you,
it's
Lord.
good to hear you.
You know, I sit and think and listen sometimes. Believe it or not, I talk a lot, but sometimes I make myself listen because, you know, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so it seems a reason sometimes we should listen more than talk. But, you know, voting, we always say voting's easy. Well, yeah, the actual physical thing of getting up and walking to the poll and punching a button or something like that is physically easy. But it's a little bit more challenging than people who are trying to get people just to go out there and push a button are making it out to be. For example, we know a little about Romney and the vice president on both sides and Mr. Obama, what his plans and what he's done and all that. We know that. But we know nothing about the libertarian person that's running. We know nothing about the constitutional right-in person in Texas, and I believe there's one other party that has their dog in the hunt. Mm-hmm. And we know, basically, most people know nothing about what Senate seats open in Texas and who is actually running, other than it's a Republican and a Democrat.
Uh-huh.
So, Gene, I think you kind of done this before in the past, and I know Reverend Barnett has. Between now and voting day, would you guys possibly try to touch on each candidate that is running on our ballot so us as a voter can be more educated? Because really it's an educational process that some of us are afraid to even get involved in. Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like going to a school class. If you want to vote really intelligent and feel like your vote really counted and you're not going, oh, well, I don't know nothing about either one of these people, but I got to vote for somebody. It's just, what I'm saying is sometimes it's not a matter of just doing the physical thing. It's the intimidation of not knowing the knowledge you think you need to know to make a good, honest vote.
Okay, thanks, Randy,
hang up and listen.
for bringing that up. It's a good time to bring up a web page called votetexas.gov, which is supposed to have all the information that you're supposed to need. And our special guest is on the air, Alicia. Can we put Alicia on now? Good morning, Alicia. Thanks for calling KNON.
Good morning. How are you?
Glad to hear from you. I'm here with Kelly and Elizabeth.
So can I do a quick brief introduction? Alicia Pottinger is joining us from Project Vote in 2012. She's the Election Counsel and Administration Manager for Texas. She is responsible for identifying and resolving barriers to registration and voting, particularly those that disproportionately impact historically underrepresented populations. Her work includes legislative and administrative advocacy, media activities, legal and field research, organizing, and leading and supporting coalitions. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Alicia, for joining us.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is and Elizabeth kind of led out on this, speaking on the money engaged in elections, and why are people making it hard for all of those who are historically unrepresented to vote?
Well, one of the things that you find is that people in power will legislate laws to keep them in power. And so when you get to some of the new bills that have been enacted, what you find is that they restrict minorities, they restrict younger people, they restrict the elderly. All may have been certain fractions that may have voted for the person that was in power, but not necessarily represented by the ones like, for example, in our legislature that was not represented. So what you have is that you have a few individuals who we elected that want to stay in power. So what they do is they enact legislation that will keep them in power. And so what we had was this voter ID bill, especially in Texas, that was specifically targeted to minorities, Hispanic, African Americans, persons who are disabled, to keep them from voting because that was a large population that voted for, and I should say, and also youth, because that was a large population that voted for our current administration.
So what is the latest, most current update on the voter ID law?
Well, the update is that it was not pre-cleared. State of Texas is a Section 5, which means that we have to go through pre-clearance because of our historical past, and the DOJ did not pre-clear the voter ID bill, and so it ended up having to go to court, and the court made a finding that the bill in itself was too discriminatory and did not have enough provisions for the people who didn't have access to an ID.
You can say racist. You can say racist. They found that the bill was too racist. The federal government stopped them from implementing the Texas voter ID law because it was too racist.
Actually, that is true. They said that it did not provide enough access for minorities, especially Spanish and African Americans, to get a proper ID, and it made it much more difficult for them to get an ID.
Mm-hmm. So, just like a poll tax. Just like a poll tax, it was clearly there to stop regular people from voting.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, we want to, this is a democracy, and what we want is we want free, fair, and accessible elections.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put in barriers to keep eligible voters from voting, then that becomes a problem.
Yeah. So if you don't think voting is important, brothers and sisters, then why are people trying to stop you from voting? Why are people spending money and doing legislation all over the country to stop you from voting? I don't know how many states they had voter ID laws. Does any of my guests know that?
It was approximately about 15 different states that under this particular current legislation period all over the country that basically instituted or tried to institute bills requiring photo ID under the auspices that this was going to stop voter fraud.
And that's not the only form of voter suppression either. Let's put another guest on here. Tunde's been waiting, and I think we can keep Alicia on and have Tunde. Okay, go ahead. Good morning, Tunde.
Good morning, Gene. How are you?
Glad to hear from you, brother.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all that you do. I think I was very prompt to call by the caller earlier that said he was too radical to vote. Honestly, talk about very misinformed. I want to encourage my brother. The spirit of radicalism require him not only to go vote, but to organize his community. I want to see that brother with 10 other people to go vote, because this is so critical. We know the history of this country. They're no longer enslaved. They're no longer lynched, but now they're using the ballot. If we don't exercise the ballot, it may become the bullet. I was listening to Reverend Barnett earlier. He said, some set of America is so armed with guns. I think we need to be arming ourselves with our ballots, not bullets, and change the nation to the direction we want it. It is not. I'm not necessarily advocating for any individual, like some of your guests have said. I'm just saying, do your education, get the facts about the issues of concern, get the facts about the candidate issue. But again, I want to ask your guest, Randy brought it up, that when are we going to have really a candidate forum to actually educate our citizens about even other candidates, not just Republicans and Democrats, because I think it's about time that we begin to really, really saturate the airways with all that are running and the issues of concern. That's why I just wanted to chime in this morning.
All right.
Thank you, my love. Always good to visit with you, and thank you for teaching us all that we know. You know, we know you, the master. You've got it going on. Thank you, my love, for calling in. So, let's go back to this making it difficult to vote. Here locally, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and region, we have seen several attempts to send out misinformation and to obstruct voters from voting. If I could ask Elizabeth to kind of chime in and talk about what she's seeing.
Sure. Kelly, this is the sort of thing that really makes me angry. This makes my blood boil, because people are struggling out there, and they've got families and they've got lives, and they're trying to do the right thing and be responsible voters, and then people are out there at the same time trying to trick people and disenfranchise them. The latest little scam that we heard about was one of our citizens got a phone call from somebody that she understood to be the county elections office, telling her that she was not registered to vote and that she should not try to vote with her yellow and white voter registration card. Now, she was upset and disappointed because she had voted in the primary and was looking forward to voting in November. So she started calling around, and it turned out that this was nothing but a scam. The election department is not making any such calls. She's registered and completely eligible to vote. And then we heard that other people are getting calls like this. And this particular individual is African American, and the others that we heard about that were getting calls like this were also African American. And we've heard about several other types of scams that are also targeting the African American community. And I think it's just a real shame. And I think the reason this community is targeted, because there's a very strong tendency to vote a certain way. And so that if you can disenfranchise an African American voter, you're probably going to achieve a certain objective, if your objective is to influence the vote one way or another. And so another one that we hear about is emphasis voting. And this is where people are told, and this has been circulating since 2008, if they vote for if they want to make sure their vote for president counts and they also want to vote a straight party ticket, that they should do both, that they should vote for the president when they go into the voting booth and also vote straight party. Now, the way some of the voting systems works, this would cancel out a vote for the president, which is just the exact opposite of what the voter intends, and it's nothing but a scam, nothing but a trick. And it's circulating exclusively in African American communities, and this is an email.
So the lines are hot, and so if you are experiencing now emails or phone calls that are clearly trying to confuse the issues or get you to vote a particular way or to not have you vote, I want you to pick up the line and call 972-647-1893. Can we go to line 1, please?
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the discussion.
How you doing? I wanted to add this. I think what y'all doing is a good service, but the reality is that the Democrats are just as complicit in this voter ID than the Republicans are, because this was on the horizon when the Republicans came in 2010. I didn't hear too many Democrats, especially black Democrats. They mentioned it, but it wasn't like a priority. And to the point I want to make is that, you know, in a society that is supposed to be free and you have the right to vote, the poor and the disenfranchised has to be more enthusiastic about voting than anybody else, because their rights are the ones that they're going to be taken advantage of. When South Africa had the election, they had lines around the corner. In America, we didn't have that. We had part of that, a sense of that with President Obama's election. But until the poor realize that they are part of the American society and their vote do count, if I'm in power, I'm going to make sure you're not in power. Because guess what? You do not want to be an active citizen in your life. And I think part of that education that I think y'all need to discuss is how the poor are complicit in their own losing the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy, for calling in. Thank you so much. And do we have time for Alicia to respond to that, or do we need to go to Alicia, if you would?
Well, he is absolutely right. It's incumbent on the individual to exercise their right. You can't have a right that you don't exercise. But there have been legislation that has been enacted. For example, you have HAVA, you have the MVRA. Those are and I'm going to go back to HAVA, which is the Help Americans Vote Act. Those were specifically instituted in order to get more people access to the ballot. Another example is the MVRA, National Voting Rights Act. And what it does is that it designates agencies that have a lot of interaction with the poor to ask them to vote and say, do you want to register? And they are held accountable for the whether or not they are following through on their mandate to access people, not to say access, but to provide people who are disenfranchised the right to vote, and to get them educated and get a voter registration.
Alisa, we're going to have to go on break real quick. We hear the music in the background, and we'll be right back with you talking about our right to vote.
Recycle Revolution is a local recycling collection service and community drop-off center. They collect and accept all traditional recyclables, including paper, plastic, aluminum, cardboard, and glass, as well as materials like TVs, computers, lamps, light bulbs, batteries, ballasts, and styrofoam. They offer collection services to apartments, condos, and businesses. They also offer a community drop-off located at 1703 Chestnut Street in Dallas. For more information, 214-566-3025 or recyclerevolutiondallas.com.
After 2 years, they're back this Saturday. It's the return of the Red Elvises.
Everybody happy.
This Weird Warren of the Sonic Burrito Radio Show. And this Saturday at the internationally famous Sons of Herman Hall, it's the return of the Red Elvises.
I used to hang out at the local bar.
We've got a tamale dinner from La Victoria Restaurant and the Rock Solid Belly Dance Company opening the show. Doors at 7 p.m. Get your tickets now at Bill's Records in Dallas, Forever Young in Grand Prairie, or online at knon.org. This Saturday, the return of the Red Elvises at the Sons of Herman Hall, 3414 Elm Street in Dallas. This Weird Warren inviting you to come on down this Saturday for your tamales, your belly dancers, and the return of the Red Elvises. This is a KNON benefit event.
Darklings, it's me, the Diva of the Dead of the Necrotones, here to tell you that Blue Lisa is celebrating the 13th anniversary of her show, Big Texas Blues, with a Halloween spectacular starring the Necrotones in our first reunion show, in almost a decade on All Hallows Eve, Wednesday, October 31st. The swing and ghoul jazz and stage show of the Necrotones has always been frighteningly good fun, and we've decided to bring it back from the grave for one night only as per request of Blue Lisa herself. She has such fantastic taste. Also appearing on the bill will be Howlin' K. Smith at 9 p.m., channeling the music and spirit of Screamin' Jay Hawkins. There'll be a costume contest for scariest, most cocktail, and funniest costumes, so start planning now. The place for the musical haunting is LaGrange, located at 2704 Elm Street in Deep Ellum. The doors are at 8 p.m., with Count Rockula providing spooky visuals and music to die for. Tickets are available now at KNON.org, Bill's Records and Good Records in Dallas, and Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie. That's Blue Lisa's Lucky 13th Anniversary Extravaganza, starring the Necrotones with special spooky guest Howlin' K. Smith on Halloween night, Wednesday, October 31st. It's going to be a scream.
I love that scream. This is Gene Lantz on the Workers Beat. The number is 972-647-1893. Just a couple of notes on labor news. Kevin Blair's telephone number is important because Kevin Blair is the organizer for Walmart around here. So if you want to help with Walmart and you have not already done so, his email is kblair@ufcw.org. Kblair, K, the letter K, and then BLAIR @ufcw.org. And here's his phone number, 859-322-8196. That's 859-322-8196. Kevin Blair is the organizer for Walmart. Protests against Walmart have spread to 28 stores in 12 states, and that ain't just nothing but the beginning. There's going to be a lot more on this. The Communication Workers of America had a big rally at the Supreme Court for affirmative action, because I don't know if you know that the world is watching University of Texas, because their use of race in college applications is being challenged, and their Supreme Court is very likely to tell them that they can't do it anymore. So there was a big rally at the Supreme Court, and hundreds of civil rights leaders and students gathered on the Supreme Court steps. Communication Workers Staff Representative Judy Graves spoke out in support of the University of Texas race-conscious admissions process, and she said, I quote, "I believe we just don't learn as much or as well when we are surrounded by people like ourselves," said Graves, standing with her husband, Oral Fitzsimmons, both of whom are University of Texas parents. Quote, "Diversity doesn't just happen. The Supreme Court needs to reaffirm the University of Texas right to foster diversity," end quote. And that's the communication workers' opinion. That's actually labor's opinion, that diversity is a good thing, affirmative action is a good thing, and those who don't like it you may as well be advised that that's labor's position. Seniors Get the Crumbs rally took place last week. Judy Bryant organized a rally at Jeb Henserling's office in opposition to the Ryan budget, the budget which was passed in the House last time and did not take effect, thank goodness, because it undermines Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. A new website helps injured workers navigate the workers' compensation systems in any state, says the AFL-CIO. And we talk about workers' comp on this program quite a bit. If you are hurt or made ill on the job, navigating the workers' compensation system in your state can be confusing and difficult. Now, a newly launched website, Workers' Comp Hub, gives you a roadmap. And here's how you get Workers' Comp Hub. It's www.workerscomphub, and hub is HUB.org, workerscomphub.org. That's all I have, and I'm sorry to interrupt our good discussion on labor's conviction that everybody should get out and vote. We've got Alicia Potter on the line, and we've got Elizabeth Wally and Kelly Obaze right here with us in the studio.
So I'd like to return back to where people can ask questions regarding the validity of any emails or calls that come in that don't seem quite right. Who can they call?
Okay, to get reliable information, if you live in the Dallas area, you can call the Dallas County Elections Office. That's 214-819-6300. or you can call the Texas Secretary of State, 1-800-252-VOTE. That's 8683.
Now that's good no matter where you live.
Yes.
You can call Secretary
anywhere
of
in
State.
the state of Texas.
Give that number again. That's important.
Okay, it's 1-800-252-8683. Some of the other scams we've heard, by the way, in case they come to your attention, says you have to re-register to vote for every election, otherwise you can't vote. Not true. Some people have heard that if they voted in the primary in May, that was early voting and they don't need to vote again in November. Not true. Or that there is a 2-year residency requirement to vote in Texas. Again, not true. There are others.
Or if you've ever been convicted of a felony that you can't vote. Not true.
Correct. Once you're off paper, you served all your sentence, you get your voting rights back.
You know, Hadi Jawad, an activist here in Dallas, says that when the caravan moves, the dogs start barking. So, you know, let's be encouraged by the fact that we are creating change, positive, constructive change, and that's why we're getting this resistance. And so speaking of resistance, let's talk about some of the intimidation that sometimes takes place at the polls when we are going out to vote. Alicia, can you bring us some more knowledge regarding some of the intimidation techniques, and most importantly, how do we combat those? What do we do to resist those issues? Go ahead.
And some of the more recent voter intimidation has been to ask for voter ID. Do you have ID? Poll workers should not be asking you for your ID if you show up with with your voter registration card, with your utility bill, things like that, to show that you are a resident where you live. And so if they ask you for a photo ID, that is not proper unless this is the first time that you're actually voting, then you do need to show ID. But outside of that, if you've voted before, you shouldn't be asked for a photo ID. Also, too, another form of intimidation that we have found is the True to Vote organization has sent out poll watchers. And what their job is to do is to intimidate minority individuals from voting. And what they have done in the past is basically glean and glare and try to talk to you while you're inside the poll and ask you, are you really registered? And those types of things are illegal in the state of Texas. That's called voter intimidation, and it's illegal. A poll watcher should not even speak to a voter when they're there. So the only people that should be speaking to you are the voter, the actual precinct judge, and the precinct workers that are there to help you and get you access to the ballot. Anybody else is basically trying to intimidate you, and you could talk to the precinct judge and let them know that person that's watching you, that's over you, lurking over your head, trying to watch your ballot as you vote, that should be done in privacy, is illegal. And you just let the precinct judge know that you're being intimidated and that you'd like that person removed, and that should take care of the problem.
So I would like to encourage people, if indeed you are interested in being trained as a poll watcher or participating at the polls, on October 20th at Southside on Lamar, NAACP is holding a training. Unfortunately, I don't have their number available, but you can call the Peace Center at 214-823-7793, and I'll be glad to share all of those particulars with you. October 20th is the date, and I'll be able to confirm the time and the training schedule. So that's really important.
Kelly,
go ahead.
Kelly, one of the things that I'd like to do, I'd like to circle back to my brother that called in earlier talking about that we have to basically access our rights, or it's incumbent on the individual. what I've been finding is that most individuals get excited during a presidential election, but don't understand that it's not only the presidential election, but also our school board elections, our city council elections. Those are the ones that really affect our citizens where they live. And so they need to be encouraged, and I encourage the brother that called in to say to individuals that, look, you know, even if you don't vote in the presidential election, it's important to vote in your city council and your school board elections, because those are the things that affect you right there in your community.
You know, well said, you know, as well as voting in this 2012 election, you must vote in your local elections, because that's how we in true drive our national agenda. And Elizabeth also wanted to kind of roll back just a bit to talk about the intimidation that it takes place sometimes even outside the polls. Is that right?
That is correct. In addition to certain intimidation that can take place within the polls, we've seen in other cities where intimidation will take place outside the polls, where people will be circulating with very threatening signs, and again, approaching people and acting in a threatening manner, and the intent is to discourage people from voting.
You know, is this real? Is this really real that in 2012, you know, over 40 years passed since the passing of the Civil Rights Voting Act, that we really are coming up against this type of resistance? What is really going on? Let's go to the core of this particular issue. But before that, let's go to the phone line. We've got Gus waiting.
Yes, this might be a question for Elizabeth. A buddy of mine has moved to Canada for a month for a job, and what does he need to do to vote by mail?
He can request a vote by mail ballot. There's still time if he wants to vote in the November election. If he's a registered voter in Texas.
Yes, he is. Could he do that online, or does he have to write a letter?
No, he just needs to get in touch with the elections department in the county that he is registered in.
Right.
Now,
okay, Dallas.
Or the Secretary of State's office. Elizabeth has both numbers. He's stand by with a pencil.
Let me give you that number for a Dallas voter. To request a vote by mail ballot, call 214-819-6300.
Okay. All right, I'll tell him to do that. And thanks a lot. It's a real informative program.
Okay, so we're going to kind of change gears, and this next question really goes out to Alicia. What can we do to continue to protect our right to vote?
There are several different things that you could do to protect your right to vote. One is to educate yourself. Two is to stay engaged in the process. That is so important, to stay engaged. For example, the upcoming legislative session, keep an eye out on what your elected officials are doing to impede your right to vote. They will probably have this voter ID bill back on the legislative session. I've been hearing talk on the ground that redistricting is coming up again. And with those of you, especially in the Dallas County, y'all had some precinct changes, etc. So in staying engaged in the process after you cast your ballot, it is extremely important that you follow up, follow up and hold your elected officials accountable for the legislation that they have enacted in while they're in office.
You know, I want to just pause right there. Our elected officials are hired to do a job by the American citizens. We hire them through our vote.
And we're paying them with our taxes.
And we're paying them through our taxes. And so we have to hold them accountable.
That's correct.
You know, I wish that my job would pay me every month and let me go do what it is I want to do, not show up for work, you know, go out and eat on the corporate dollar and do whatever I want to do. But you know what? The real world is not like that. We have got to hold our elected officials accountable. Elizabeth?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, the first time you elect somebody to office, and maybe they've made a lot of promises, and maybe they don't deliver, they don't behave the way they said they were going to behave when they get in office, well, shame on them. But if you put them back in office after an experience like that, then shame on you.
I heard that. You're so right about that. So a couple of things. We only have a few more minutes, and I want to talk about some of the activities that will be taking place. Dallas local, again, October 20th, the training done by NAACP Dallas. And on an international front, I'd like to encourage people to come out to the vigil tonight at Dealey Plaza at 6:45 p.m. It is a prayer vigil on behalf of the people in Syria. One thing I say all the time, Elizabeth, is that when we get our civil rights, human rights, and civil liberties right here in the United States, then we'll be fit to project that abroad. But until that happens, we've got to take care of home first. Charity starts at home. So again, we've got the prayer vigil taking place at 6:45 p.m. The Peace Awards dinner, which is the Peace Gala of the year, is taking place December 6th at Doubletree Hotel. We are honoring the contributions of Richard Sombrano, Vivian Castleberry, Unity of Arlington as the Peacemaker Organization of the Year, and Bob Ray Sanders for the Media Person of the Year. You can go to our website, dallaspeacecenter.org, for more information.
I want to thank Elizabeth for coming today, and for Kelly and Alicia talking about the importance of voting and the importance of finding out what you're doing and defending your right to vote. The phone lines were pretty full all day today. I encourage you to call next week if you didn't get through today, and stay with it. Stay with KNON, because the voice of the people really does crave your attention and your participation in these discussions. The discussion today, of course, was on voting, and we'll continue to work about that as we go forward. On October 22nd, there'll be a rally downtown led by Bonnie Mathias of KNON and of CWA, Communication Workers of America. We will be downtown asking everybody to make sure that they vote early. It's October 22nd at the Old Red Courthouse. Go
Gene,
ahead,
do you know
Kelly.
it's just 8 more days before early voting, and then 23 more days to the general election? Let's get busy.
So we've got to get to work and get ourselves together. Any final words, Elizabeth or Kelly?
We'll see you at the polls.
All right, and Kelly?
I'll see you at the polls.
All right, everybody's going to see us at the polls. You won't see me at the polls because I already voted. The early voting, the vote by mail option is available for people over 65, and so take advantage of that if you possibly can. We only have a couple of seconds here. KNON appreciates so very, very much that you listen to us and that you participate in these discussions, and we'll see you next week.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk, each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast, also available on iTunes.